Equity is still the number one reason why co-founding teams split up, like resentment over ownership in a cooperative business. You don't have to deal with that. But Henry, you're talking about how do you actually encourage people to join a team, right? No, salaries are only acquired through debt financing,
Yeah.
where there's not as much upside in terms of large scale pay because you're probably not going to be venture backed because venture capitalists don't usually invest in co-ops. That's your current struggle right now, right?
Yeah, that's the struggle. And I think it's, whenever we're talking about equity in a startup, it's imaginary value, right? Like we
Exactly.
don't know. The exit strategy is a big question mark. I have not personally worked at a startup where equity was exchanged, but I've had many friends that have, and they typically take a less desirable salary with a little bit of equity that will vest within 1 or 2 years, with the idea that the company will sell within 3 to 5 years. So that's a basic calculation in a lot of my friends' minds. I'm excited about this project, so I want to work on it. I'm getting paid decently. I'm hoping that this equity is extremely lucrative for me in the short term. That is in stark contrast with a co-op that says there is no 5-year exit. This
Yeah.
co-op is here to stay. This is for people passionate about solving this problem. The best case scenario is we survive and thrive 10, 20 years down the road, and you
Yeah.
are paid handsomely in the form of a salary. There isn't really equity. Am I misrepresenting a co-op structure there?
No, I don't think you are at all. I wrote a post about this startup equity and whether you should take a lower salary. The short of it is don't ever do that. It's a total gamble, whether that will amount to any money. The idea in 4 years, if you take that over time, it's $6,500
Yeah.
extra a year. If you're taking any less in salary than that, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like advocate for yourself. End of this incentive for co-ops, it is exactly, do you believe in this? Do you want this thing to exist? If you do, we will work together to try to make that happen. We will community rounds of funding, go to a bank and start a business like normal people have done for them, like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
That's the path forward. Where that gets really tricky is finding a co-founding team is already so difficult, even in the
Mhm.
realm of infinite money so that you can have a salary. Startups are sexy and working at one is really easy. Even if it fails, you could leverage that experience to finding those people in that environment is already hard. Finding people that are just generally passionate about the thing you're working on and will do it for little financial upside other than just a normal job that they will not have potentially for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like, if
Mhm.
you can find those people, they're going to be with you for a long time. You don't have to have large conversations about whether things feel fair in terms of equity and compensation because everyone feel that sense of trust to our earlier conversation that this relationship is important and we're aligned on this thing. Sarah, my wife, is actually starting a grocery cooperative in our town, which is the most popular form of cooperative registered in the United States. She's been interviewing for now 7 months for people to join her 5-person initial board. It's important
Yeah.
to find the people that are going to be really committed and essentially volunteer to make this thing exist for the next year and a half as they go through community rounds of funding, working with the city, all of these things that take so much time and will not get paid for that time, at least have some sense of control and development of a thing and potentially some money coming in forms of salary or back pay in the future. But yeah, that's the hard part about starting a cooperative in the US. There's very little early financial upside for your first founding team. It's more about commitment and belief that this thing is important.
To find those founding team members, because with my startup that I'm working on, we haven't launched yet, but I'm already thinking about, all right, how do we sustain from the initial launch? If this all goes well, how am I going to bring in specifically developers
Yeah.
to grow and maintain this thing? If we're not going to take on $1 million seed round or a multi-million dollar seed round, then we can't pay those salaries. If we're not going to give up equity, or we're not going to give equity that is expected to have a huge payout in the form of a huge exit,
Yep.
then we take away that